Peace and Black Power families. Brother Agyei Taimba from Harlem Liberation School, where, of course, we teach Black people to wake up, clean up, and stand up. I say this so much, y'all probably should be able to say it with me. Want to definitely greet everyone out. It's been a little funny with some little tech issues we've had, but it's all good. I'm not going to complain. I do apologize, though, for being late. I really hate being late. I think it's a terrible thing to be late. So I apologize for that. And I will promise not to let that happen again unless it's a dire emergency. Family, I want to welcome you out. I want to say Wukusu to the brothers and the sisters. I want to say that I hope you're keeping your heads up. I hope that you are staying stress-free. I hope that you are focusing on all the good and beauty you want to bring into the world, that all the negativity rolls right off, and that you move forward, right? Move forward with our plans. Move forward with the things, our visions, our dreams, that should occupy 99.9% of our time. The things that we're trying to do, accomplish, create, build, the ways we're trying to heal our people, that's where our focus should be. With that said, I want to quickly let you all know that I have officially become an empowerment coach. I think it is something I've done throughout my life at different ages and different times before there was a language for it. Because basically what that means is you are helping people to overcome their challenges. You're helping them to be people that can accomplish their goals, that can be better people. It's not in a therapeutic way. It's more focused on healing, overcoming trauma, mental illness. It's not. So I just want to make sure I am not qualified to do that. And I'm going to say that up front. And my hat goes off to the brothers and sisters that are qualified to do that, because that's very important work. But our work is more about helping people to say, okay, I want to do this. I want to get here. I want to move in this type of way. And we can help them do that by helping them be more organized, give them tools, and give them paradigm shifts, most importantly, change the way they think, right? Or identify ways they think that lead to behaviors that are getting in the way of the things they say they want to do. That's what we do. We empower you, right? So I'm starting that throughout the broadcast. I'll have some things scrolling by on the bottom. It's telling you to visit my empowerment coaching website. The website is on the bottom. I'm going to have another link that shows empowerment products, which is technically ebooks. Some of my traditional books I have digitized, so some of those are available, as well as straight up ebooks. And there's a 5-part series for young people, for Gen Z family, the Gen Z crew. We got to get them. We got to get them, fam. We can't just castigate them and push them aside. We got to teach them and reach them and teach them, right? We have to reach them and teach them. That is our job. That's our responsibility. That said, family, I've been in this quote-unquote game, if you want to call it that, for a bit of time, and I've observed a lot of trends. I've been part of a few trends. And one thing that I think that we have to be very cautious of is narrowing the scope and the content of our liberation movement. I'm a person who always going to hear me pushing back against this idea that it's just boots on the ground work. That's completely untrue, right? I went through a whole video that we said boots on the ground means combat, on the ground, in a war scenario. But the U.S. military, 85% of the jobs and responsibilities are non-combat. Photographers, videographers, fitness coaches, teachers, nutritionists, cooks, all types of people that have nothing to do with the battle, never see a battlefield. And that's the way liberation is, family. A very small group of people are going to be out there in a military sort of way for our people. Most of us are going to be working on any number of jobs, any number of professions and careers. So I push back against that. Whether that's said explicitly by people in our community or whether it's implied, I push back. I think it is completely erroneous. And I can prove it a million ways, although that's not the topic of tonight's discussion. But I think, I call myself, I'm an educator, author in this, but I'm also, fundamentally a liberation theoretician. I'm trying to get us to think differently and to make sure that what we think aligns with our reality. Right? Because if if a doctor misdiagnoses you, then their prescription cannot possibly address your malady or your ailment. So I'm trying to make sure we're looking at this correctly, accurately, I should say, so that we're not coming up with all types of crazy, harebrained, half-baked ideas that have nothing to do with pushing us forward and that might, in fact, be setting us back, right? Unbeknownst to us in terms of liberation. I'm not claiming to know about every other thing. I'm talking about black liberation. So that's very important to me. In line with that, I have noticed over the years, when we talk about Pan-African nationalism, and that's the way I would classify myself as a Pan-African nationalist, often when we talk about, first of all, in my humble opinion, far too much of our time and energy goes to protest. Now, I say that having started out as a person that was a protest activist, I support our activists. I support those of us who are protesting unjust systems, obviously, right? Definitely. White supremacist ideas, white supremacist institutions. It's just, here's the quandary we're in. If it was just about fighting white folk, boy, what a terrible life that would be, wouldn't it? Your whole existence is here to fight white folk for the rest of your life? Like, you getting up, you at the police precinct, you at the schools, listen, family, all I'm saying is we got to mix that up, right? Because I know in my own life, we was tearing up the universities, we was challenging the university, but we also started school, started a channel, write books. In other words, you mix your fight strategy up. Part of your fight is against your external enemies, right? Who are persecuting us, clearly. But the other part of the fight has to be building capacity. What do I mean? Creating the structures, the values, the ideas, the theories, the institutions we need so that when we, quote unquote, win or achieve our liberation, right, we go into our laundromats and getting our clothes clean. I'm not talking on black capitalism shit either. I'm talking about having our own institutions. They could be cooperative institutions. They don't have to be capitalist. But we can't spend all our energy combating white folk. Because see, here's the thing. White folk have institutions, religious institutions, financial institutions, political institutions, much of which we are part of. You know what I'm talking about because you bank most likely at a white bank. I'm not banging on you because, we're colonized people. So, yeah, obviously a lot of the things we do are going to involve participating in white holidays and customs and they're supporting their institutions, not because we love white folk, but because in many cases, they, in some cases, are providing the things that we need for our existence. What I'm saying, though, is if we're talking about liberation, then we have to now see this as part of our time has to be debating and all this and protesting. But the other part, we need people who, while people are going back and forth with white folk, we need people who's building laboratories. I can't tell you how many people told me they don't trust when white folk is sticking with needles. They don't trust their lab tests. They don't trust the doctors. They don't trust the medical. So, okay, so guess what that's telling you? You don't trust it? You don't like it? We need to create our own, right? So we can't do that work if all of us are banging on the white man on what he's doing, right? So I kind of put together just a few notes. I'm gonna go through it quickly, but this is very important from a theoretical point of view that we understand what our fight, when we say we're fighting, what that means, what that looks like if we want to be effective and efficient, right? It's very, very, very important. And we know that some of our greats, Amos Wilson, Hakeem Adabuti, still 82, 3 years old. He's still running 4 different African-centered schools. He and his team created African-centered press, Third World Press. You know who he is. He was a very important part of the Black arts movement as a poet. All these institutions, he's big on that, and I'm big on that too. And sometimes as nationalists and Pan-Africanists, we forget that part of it's, yeah, we banging on them, but we banging for us. We have to create the things we need. Queen Mother Moore, Brother Marcus Garvey, All these people, Dr. John Henry Clark, Brother Malcolm, are talking about self-determination, nationhood, sovereignty. You can't have sovereignty if you don't have the basic things you need for your survival. Now, granted, we are an internal colony of the United States. That makes things complicated for us, right? It means that we can't easily just have everything we want because we're kind of semi-dependent. And I might dare say mostly dependent on the goods and the services of the people that we see as opponents, or at least some of them are adversaries. So we're in a very interesting situation. But whether we're completely liberated or not, we should be working towards that, right? So this is important. I want to challenge us to think beyond resistance and protest. And I want to be clear, so what I'm saying is not misconstrued. You're never going to hear me say, don't participate in black resistance. You'll never hear me say that. If you hear me say that, somebody kidnapped me and drugged me and it ain't me. I'm always going to support people who are out here talking about the racist cops and the racist school, miseducating school system and the ruthless, predatory corporations, always. However, our fight and our forms of resistance occupy more than just protest, right? I want us to look at ourselves as nation builders. It's a whole different concept now we're talking about. Nation builders, right? So we don't like the founding fathers because we know some of them were slave owners and they were racist all get out, right? But we also know those colonists that were fighting in their American Revolutionary War were fighting for a nation. And so they were doing things to build nation, right? They had to create a communication system. They had a ragtag militia, a group of people that were fighting at that time, all white men for the most part, had a few black people. They had all these different things in place, right? To make sure that they were working towards a nationhood. Because when they wrote that Declaration of Independence, boom, they saying, we no longer consider ourselves your possessions or colonies. So that means once you say that, you got to get your own house. Once you moving out, okay. So now you got to do all the things that Britain was doing for you. Now you got to do it. So they were thinking as nation builders. One of the first things they did was what? After they kicked their behinds and won, they created legal governmental structure, right? The Constitution. Because they realized to have a nation, it has to have rules and regulations. We have to have order, right? We have to avoid chaos. We have to be on one page. You have to have a system of accountability. So one of the first things they did was created the law, right? So I just want to say, I hope that we see ourselves, at least some of us watching now on the later recorded version, as nation builders, not just activists and protesters. That's important. But we need people to say, I'm here to build something that will outlive me. You understand, family? Right? See, right now, I live 10-minute walk from the Schomburg Library. That was put there by a man, named Arturo Schomburg, Afro-Barinquan man, I might add, who was a bibliophile. He had a collection of books, and he started that. And when I was younger, it looked nothing like it looks today. It's built up. It has conference and all these bookstore outside patios. Beautiful. But that man put something there that has outlived him. He's not here physically, but he's here. Because every time you take out a book, every time they turn on the lights, the air conditioning, they get on the laptop and they go into those archives, they're bearing witness to that man's work that has outlived him. So he's no longer here, but that institution is here. And that's one of the institutions I'm going to be talking about. So I want to just make sure that we give a few terms. When I say nation building in a black liberation sort of context, I mean building autonomous systems that we govern, protect, and we intend to help govern and protect and educate and heal and feed our people. And I think that schools, when a lot of people think of these institutions, Pan-African nationalist institutions, we automatically think of schools. We need schools. Yes, we absolutely need schools. But guess what? Guess what? That's one of many institutions we need. And what we don't want to do is oversaturate in one area and neglect a whole lot of other areas, right? So if you're like 45 and you finished high school, you got a GED, or you didn't, you went to college or you didn't, public school from K to 12 don't help you too much unless you're working in it, right? So you other institutions get your attention at 45 years old, 35, 55, 65 years. Other institutions that you're going to engage in your life that have nothing to do with school. So I really want to make sure we have some brilliant people. We have the Barudis, my good brother Marcus Klein, Freedom Home International, Barudis with Aqaba Institute. I have my brother Baba Amin. We got with Uhuru Academy. I think I forget our elder's name. With Kamali Academy. There's so many wonderful schools, but now we need to now think about what other things do we need for our nation, right? What are some of the other things we need? Now, one of the things that we need, and by the way, I want to also say these 10 things, we have them. I want to be real clear. I'm not saying we don't have any of them. I'm saying we don't talk about this enough. These institutions I'm going to talk about, we need to be talking about. It needs to be on our minds, our lips, all the time, because the more you talk about it and visualize it, you create a type of energy where people are going to start building in them, investing in and supporting the ones that already exist and creating new ones. This is very, very important. All right. So number one, we need independent Black health clinics and holistic wellness centers, and dare I say, full-fledged hospitals. Full-fledged hospitals. Are y'all with me? I hope y'all feeling me on this. This is very important. And then I'm going to take a pause and we're going to look at some comments. But just follow me for a minute. I'm going to try to be as brief as I can. I have had medical issues. I've had mostly decent experiences in hospitals. But listen, I've observed some things I did not like or appreciate. I've listened to some of my loved ones and their experiences that were not very decent. And I have seen how people have had to beg for painkillers. They're in excruciating pain. The doctors thinking we trying to get high. Like, come on, man. This is ridiculous, right? Or we're treated roughly. Or we're left somewhere and forgotten about. And then people come, you've been there for an hour or two waiting. They was doing whatever they was doing. I mean, so that tells me we need hospitals. All right. And as it's an institution. The people that started Mount Sinai Hospital, I'm sure many of them are dead and gone. But the hospital's there and it's growing every year. They're adding on new wings. They're getting into new types of surgery and new types of technology. I want us to think like that. And part of the reason we're not doing that enough is because we don't see ourselves as a nation or a potential nation. We're kind of like, we're just a loose group of Black people that we're here. But we don't see ourselves being connected in any real viable way. We need to address mental health, trauma, reproductive health, chronic illnesses, all of that. So people like Dr. Sebi, sisters like Queen Afua, people like the late and Sebi, and also Lila Africa, right? We need things like that. Brother Haru we had on recently at Harlem Liberation School, breaking down different health issues we have and what causes them. We need places, mutual aid health collectives. We need medical clinics, full-fledged hospitals, laboratories, all these things related to health, right? And that's very important that we're clear on that, because if we're clear on that, we're going to be talking about it in our homes, in our places of worship, in our businesses and organizations. And guess what? Young people are now going to start realizing, oh, there's a whole lot of things I can do with my life besides just 1, 2, 3, the 3 things that they throw out for Black people that we do. Entertainment. I'm not banging on entertainment. We need entertainment, but all of us don't need to be entertainers, family. I think we got that pretty well covered. We got hip hop artists, singers, producers. We big in it in the music, but there's a lot of other areas. As nation builds, I think we should explore Black cooperative grocery stores and food hubs. We have to combat very real issues, particularly in some of our urban areas, like food deserts and corporate exploitation. So where I live, man, there are not a whole lot of, let's say, restaurants, diners, the type of restaurants that have real food, not heavily processed. Around me, man, we got McDonald's, we got Popeyes, we got all the Chinese restaurant, which is really more, not a real Chinese restaurant, but you know, the little takeout Chinese restaurants. Stuff like that, you know, and that stuff is unhealthy. It's not whole food. It's heavily processed. Heavy salt, heavy sugar content. We need to combat that. We know that that's real. We know we're dealing with hypertension and diabetes all intergenerationally. So why not address the problem by having grocery stores and food hubs that allow us to get good food, healthy food at affordable prices, right? From all parts of the world, not just from certain parts, all parts of the world, and expose ourselves to stuff that comes from the continent. I just learned about 5 years ago that coffee originated in Africa, not South America, and that it grows tons of coffee beans, right? A lot of people don't even know that. So it's like, yo, did you ever try coffee from Kenya or Ethiopia? You should try it. It's delicious, right? But we need to get into that. Freedom Farmers Market, Detroit Black Community Food Security Network. Detroit has a big food co-op that's doing really well and deserves your attention and support. Check it out. Number 3, Black owned and controlled security forces or community defense units. Some say gun clubs, some say militias, call it what you will. But we need these formations and organizations that protect our people from state-sanctioned violence and from internal harm. And, you know, we can point to things like the Black Panther Party's patrols when they first started in Oakland. We could point to Huey P. Newton Club, point to Anubis Gun Club. My brother Amun, shout out to brother Amun in Houston. That's my brother right there doing wonderful, wonderful work. They're evacuating people. They're relocating people who are victims of domestic violence. They're doing wonderful work. We need to focus on that. We need to start recruiting. Like the white man's military, they recruit people and they try to give incentive. Now, we don't have the money they have, right? But we need to start thinking like we're a nation. Because when you think that way, you're going to move differently, right? You're going to move differently. You're going to be thinking, what are the different components we need for our nation? How do we protect our nation? And that's what we're talking about. With all these Black women being abducted, never to be found or heard from again, Black bodies being found with their organs dug out of them. I mean, all these brothers and sisters getting killed under the weirdest circumstances. Certainly, I don't need to convince you that we need to be talking about how we secure ourselves, literally and metaphorically. We also have to really be focusing now on some type of economic empowerment. Black financial institutions. Whether you want to talk about credit unions, lending circles, investment clubs, we got to build capital. We could offer microloans. There's a whole thing of microloans that other ethnic groups are using. That's a kind of a cooperative format that they use. And they give out small loans for small businesses to help you kind of get off your feet and get some of the initial capital you need, right? They also have now a new thing called FinTech, which is financial technical companies. So if you have Chime, a Chime card or Chime account, Chime is not a bank. It is a financial technical company. Chime partners with a bank called Bancorp, which is a real bank, but they provide financial services to people that a lot of people like. A lot of Black people I know have Chime. But you have Greenwood and you have other Mocafi. So you have these Black people now saying, you know what, we need to create things that allow us to loan money to businesses, right? And to private citizens as well. That's how you keep money circulating, but not just money circulating. I want you to envision that in healthy communities that are economically stable, when people have business ideas, they go to their local bank for business loans to get started, right? Because of racism and a lot of other things, we don't have that type of access. So we have to create it. And again, I'm not supporting a capitalist sort of model, but we can do that cooperatively. There's other ways that we can organize business that aren't predatory and ruthless and competitive and overcharging people and you know, that type of thing. So I just want to say that we need to really look into creating things that help us get our money up, invest it and grow it, and then put it into worthwhile projects and formations and organizations in our community. Also, I don't know if where you live, you see homeless people when you're going to work or going to school. I don't know if you've been homeless or been in a homeless shelter, but that is always a concern for Black people in particular. So we also have movements now where private companies, family, are trying to buy projects, the land that housing projects are on. That should be illegal, but that's what's happening now, right? Particularly with your boy as the president. You know, the private corporations, man, they're like, hey, they like kids in a candy store, right? All these things are being deregulated. They're left wide open to do what they want to do. So this means, because we know we have to have somewhere to live, that we should be thinking about how do we house ourselves, and not just the stereotypical thing, a hammer and wood and build the house, but actual housing developments. We own tracts of land and we put buildings up, not just houses per se, but buildings, residential buildings with several floors that have a gym, maybe a little pool, a place where people can socialize and have events. We have to think like that, right? So when I'm saying this, I'm saying that we really need to think about, as an institution, Black housing cooperatives and land trusts. Why? We want to fight gentrification. We complain about it all the time. We want to fight the displacement of our people. We complain about it all the time. We want community-controlled housing. We can charge rents that are reasonable, that people can afford, right? And there's a few examples that I'm not going to get into right now. Remember, I'm not saying these things don't exist. They do exist. I'm saying we're not talking about these institutions enough, and we need to, because all of these constitute some of the critical elements of a nation. I want to take some time and look at some comments real quick. Family, I don't want my peoples to be left out. So we got Norman Richmond, Don Freeman, who co-founded RAM, the Revolutionary Action Movement. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I'm actually was in touch with Baba Ahmad, and of RAM as well. And we had him on the show. We had a wonderful interview with him. He gave us wonderful jewels about why they started it, some of the challenges, and, you know, some of the things he wanted to tell the young people today who are involved in the liberation movement for our people. So yes, Don Freeman gets maximum respect. That's my queen bee. That's my love, Brenda Hilaire. She says, Wukusu to the family. We have, yes. Don Freeman has passed. He's telling us he's joined the ancestors. Yes. We give him, we give him many thanks for his contribution to our people, to the struggle. And for those who don't know, RAM actually came out in about, I want to say, 62, 64. They'll actually come out before the actual Black Power movement started. So what happened is they actually became Jegnas, mentors, teachers, if you will, of the Black Panther Party, the Republican New Africa. Many of them greatly respected RAM because RAM came into the game before they came into it. So they looked to them for leadership. So we definitely give a shout out to our good brother. All right. So I'm going to change some of what I'm putting up. This is my coaching website, scrolling on the bottom. Now we've got some coaching products, some coaching books, and Black people need coaching. Don't you let nobody tell you we need coaching, for real, for real. All right, having said that, thank you to the Queen. Thank you to our brother for sharing that news with us of RAM. We need Black legal aid and justice centers. We need people that provide our legal defense, know your rights trainings. We have that. We have National Conference of Black Lawyers. We got legal empowerment centers. I know a few attorneys that are involved in those things, and that's great. I'm not saying these things don't exist. I know they exist. What I'm saying is these things should be in our minds in the forefront. There's so many things we need besides the typical things we talk about when we say we need, in our community, in our hood. We need a lot of other things to survive and develop and thrive. We need Black research and policy think tanks. I can't tell you how many panel discussions I've been to, and somebody jumps up, every single one of them. I'm tired of this talking. I'm going to go out and do something. I was at a panel, and a sister she was on the panel. I can't. I got to go to the hospital. I got to take care of it. Now, I just want to say this, family. Activism is activism. Think tanks are think tanks, but activism typically comes from think tanks, comes from people in the neighborhood complaining about ideas, sharing their grievances, right? Ideas for what we need to do to have mobility in our own cities, ideas for what we need to do to have better education. And the activism typically comes from people coming together, complaining and talking about the issues they see. So they go hand in hand. It's not like you need one and not the other. We need both. But I want you to know, if you was fired, lost any benefits you had, your medication is going up exponentially, you'll find it more difficult to get into certain fields, to get jobs. I want you to know that that's as a result of the president's administration, but also the blueprint that he's representing and executing since day one in office, called Project 2025. Project 2025 is almost a 1,000-page book, if you will, of these are the things we're going to do when we get our Republican person in office. And it just goes through the whole list, family. Everything you see now, you go find in that book, kind of like a report that they wrote, right? This is the playbook they gave whoever's going to be our Republican president. That was the playbook they gave. Now, that playbook that you see is happening right before your eyes right now was created by a think tank called the Heritage Foundation. Think tanks are simply organizations of people that get together, intellectuals, it could be creatives, all types of people, attorneys, and they get together and they think about ways to accomplish a certain thing. In this case, ways to keep white people on top and Black and brown people on bottom, right? So what you're seeing and experiencing and grumbling about and upset about came from a group of people. Some of them have no experience in activism or politics formally. They're professors, some of them, intellectuals, writers, journalists. Some were involved in politics, but these are people just shooting ideas, and they say, we should try this, right? So when you see that mayors are running to the president and doing his bidding so they can get favors from the president, and you see this business leader is running to the president to get favors, and the Supreme Court is making some very questionable decisions, giving the president or the executive branch some carte blanche to do things that never before happened. That's coming from people that you never saw out here fighting in the street, military. These are people that are thinkers that roll that out to him to implement their ideas. We need think tanks, and we have them. We got the Curwen Institute, Race Forward, Institute of the Black World, 21st century, that goes back to like the 60s or 70s. We have some. I'm saying we need to support the ones we have and build new ones. There's a whole lot of work for people to do that they ain't the best fighters, the best shooters, teachers. There's a whole lot of work for you to do. And I'm sure that if you go through this list, you're going to say, wow, I could possibly do that, right? So it's very, 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 very important that we see that we need all these institutions. They generate data. They give analysis. They give us policy recommendations grounded in our needs and interests. They say, we need legislation to deal with DEI or whatever, but they come up with those policies. The think tanks, we need them. So the people we call nerds and they just, well, words and ideas, don't you sleep on them, because words and ideas run the world. Trust and know everything you do or think is an idea. Your religion is an idea. Your political ideology is an idea. Capitalism is an idea. That you need to get fly and what fly looks like is an idea. All of that. So don't sleep on ideas. They run the world. We need family. It's 2025. We need, you can barely do certain things if you don't have the internet. Or if you do them, they put you at a real disadvantage. We need Black technology and innovation type of centers or hubs, incubators, where we're teaching, I know we have the STEM going on, but now I'm talking about people that know up on AI, that know how to make AI agents to simplify your life, to make your calls, answer your emails, do the basic stuff so you're free to do the more important things, and how to leverage that in our interests. We can't always be paranoid and scared of everything that's new and different. That's not to say we shouldn't be cautious. I'm saying when you see, listen, family, they're predicting that in 10 years, millions of jobs are going to be gone. Because they just don't need people. They got AI could do all that. Answer the phones, answer questions, type the email, secretaries, a lot of stuff like that. Gone. Education's going to look different. Business is going to look different. I mean, you can go on the chat GPT and you could ask it to give you forecasts of finance. You don't need some of the brokers are going to be losing jobs. So really need you to understand, instead of running away from it, run right to it and see how we could use it and bend it toward our interests and issues, right? So we should be training and empowering young people and adults in tech fields. We should promote digital sovereignty. And they have things like this. They have the hidden, we see anything you think of Black people in. I say this every day to myself. We got the Hidden Genius Project. We got the Black Girls Code. And we got my brother Legend and his wife Jessica over at B1 Initiative. A whole, all their activism, the kind of study groups, all that is around in the digital space. And they're reaching a lot of people in that digital space. In fact, I partner with them every Thursday at 7 Eastern on Twitter. I teach a political education class, and it obviously is open to anyone that goes to Twitter, but it's specifically in conjunction with them and the work they're doing. They have something, family. You know how you go to Wikipedia? They've created Sankofapedia. See what I'm saying? How they thinking. I love the young people, man. Their minds are going places that sometimes we scared to go to. I don't want to try that. I don't know, but okay, they're going to try it. And they're not only going to try it, they're going to master it. And the stuff he's telling me is very exciting, the stuff they could do. The articles they're going to have on Sankofapedia, articles just about us and our history and culture. That's very exciting. We need to take over that space. You know the way we took over baseball and then basketball and then football? Do you know what I'm talking about? That's the way we need to be taking over tech and every other space I'm talking about, every other space. We need the ninth one. We need Black media networks and content creators. I know we tend to give the content creators a negative spin because a lot of them are talking some crazy stuff that's irrelevant. It got nothing to do with us. There's people that's sitting down playing their game and not really teaching. They're just playing their game and showing you them playing their game. They got millions of subscribers. That amazes me. But hey, to each their own. What I'm saying is, while they doing that, we need to be creating our own media hubs. Harlem Liberation School is a YouTube channel. We have many others, Black Liberation Media. We have many others that are doing really wonderful, great work, that are teaching people things they really need to know, that they can use and apply to make their lives better, their communities better, their people better. But we really have to focus on creating them in a way that are more independent. That is to say, creating actual networks that are Black funded, Black conceived, Black implemented. That's very important because what's happening is like they did with the Africa stream. They just kicked them off of YouTube. So you gotta be thinking now, okay, we got all these black people in IT. I'm telling you, I know that for a fact. Come on. We got people that's in cybersecurity, all of that. There's a brother in my brotherhood, Brother B, real strong in that. Sometimes he talks about some of the things he does in his job. And I'm like, you know what? I think that it's time for us to put them people together, and we need to have our own social media networks and all types of things, family. I want to say digital libraries, all types of things we can make available. But we have to be talking about this a lot, because the things that's on our mind we talk about, those are things we dream about, those are things we think about, and before you know it, those are things we be about, that we do and put into existence. Starts with the thought, right? So right now we got Hard Liberation School, we got The Final Call, right? We got Black Power Media, Brother Kalonji, peace to you. We got Black Liberation Media, Jared Ball and the brothers and sisters over there, and so many others. We got to build them up, because also they become the way that we get news that we can believe in, that's credible, right? They're not making up stuff about Burkina Faso. If you go now, you'll see a video every day, and they talk about all types of stuff, and you realize some of that is fake, right? But then you go to people who's like, I can trust them. Why can you trust them? Because they're not going to report on something because so-and-so on the block told them. They're going to go and verify information. So you can trust them, because, they verified that, they cross-referenced that, they asked credible people and credible sources, and if they're telling you that, you have a very, you'd be very intelligent to listen, right? So that's important, where we get our news from. And now in the digital space, family, so many things have opened up. I mean, so now we have cartoons and, oh my gosh, web series, and Brother Knowledge Bonallah is trying to do a web series. I mean, so much has opened up in those spaces that I envision a time when we have Black-owned networks, just like ABC, NBC, CBS, ESPN, and so on and so forth. And we have programming every day, 24 hours, just like these white corporate networks have. And these things could be cooking shows, news programs, talk shows, entertainment and comedy, concerts, children's stuff, all of that. But we gotta think of ourselves as a nation. If you don't do that, you're not going to get what I'm saying. You got to be thinking like that. We're a nation. If not, we could be a nation. And let's think like that, right? It's going to change the whole way you look at things. And lastly, number 10, very dear to my heart, we need Black cultural and historical preservation institutions, right? So in Harlem, we had Schomburg would be listed under that. The Apollo Theater would be listed under that. County Cullen Library right next to Schomburg. Certainly there was a Blacks and Wax Museum. I don't know if it's still there. But we're talking about museums and libraries and archives and art spaces, art galleries. There's I think it's called Maisel Film Center, like on 127th and Lenox, and they show a lot of independent documentaries. We need spaces like that. Why? Because this preserves our traditions. It preserves our story. And like I said, we need oral history. Like there's so much that we need to preserve our history that these type of places would house, right? Those culture and historical preservation to preserve, protect our stuff from being stolen, and we never could find our history no more. Imagine, not no more in the digital space. Digital space eliminated that, because I have pictures that by now would have been yellow and falling apart that I was able to digitize. And that means that they will not crumble. They're in a digital space. I can put them out when I want. I can leave them on a computer when I want. And we've done this with books. What do you think ebooks are, right? So I just want you to think, these are 10 things, family, that I'm been thinking about for a long time. that I don't think gets enough of our conversation and thought. And I want us to get from the symbolic resistance. I want us to move from not just thinking the only form of resistance is protesting white inhumanity, which we should continue doing, but also I want to encourage you, look in your neighborhood, go in your city, you taking your walk, you with your lady, your man, your child, riding your bike, on your skateboard, or your scooter. Look at your neighborhood and assess it. Do a visual audit. You don't need pen and paper. And just see, man, what's missing in my neighborhood? What are the goods and services that I want and depend on that don't seem to ever be in my neighborhood? I got to go way downtown or uptown for it. That's one thing. And then look at these 10 things and seek out these 10 institutions in your neighborhood. Do you have a medical clinic, a hospital, research laboratory, genealogy center where you can find out where you come from, or anything, labs where you can find out what's going on with you? Then you might say, if you're so interested, let me get with some people and let's start something like that. He's right. We need that. I also think that if you find such things in your community, to support them. The other thing is to support them. You'd be surprised at things black people are doing all over the world that we don't know about. Could be right in your community, and you be thinking we need this, and it's right around the block. So also look at some of these institutions I talked about when you have spare time, because I know we're all busy. Just say, well, do we have any cooperative-owned supermarkets? Do we have any cooperatively owned laundromats? Do we have movie theaters? Because it's not all about politics and business. We appreciate entertainment, just not all the damn time. Right? We would like to go to a movie and go bowling. Do we have any places we could take our family and everybody's comfortable there? We got places where we can go and see a good comedy show, and we got comedians that's telling us about our culture and our reality, and we're laughing about it. Or we can see some really nice, wonderful artists in a concert. Do we own any halls or theaters? We can see some independently written and produced plays that speak to our reality. I want you to think about that. Like, really go, when you don't just la be on the phone. Like, really look around your community. Know your community and see what's missing, what's not there. I know you got hair care salons, you're going to have cell phone companies, you're going to have liquor stores, you're going to have all that. The bodegas, what's missing? What would you like to see that's never in your neighborhood? You always got to go somewhere else, and that's a good place to start. So, family, I don't want to keep you too long. I've probably spoken too long. I do want to thank you all for coming out. I hope that I'm going to go to some comments before we leave. And so we got some people in the building. We got UNIA Radio. They just my brother Ra. He said, this is some of the subtle nuances of what I touched on in the fact book. Dope talk. This video needs to be shared widely. Thank you, good brother. Got the Queen, Brenda Hilaire. That's my baby girl, my big baby girl. There are organizations like Grameen America, right? We talked about those microloans earlier, right? That offer microloans for women who have a business trying to start one. So look, Grameen, I believe, was started by Bengali women, which means, I think, and I want to say Bangladesh, very traditionally, very poor country. And they saw great success with that. Of course, they didn't start that idea, right? But they capitalized on it. And she is right. Look at that and say, I said that. How do we create economic, financial places where we're loaning? Because we got people that got businesses and they ain't got the money. They're brilliant. They got great ideas. They need seed money. And it may so happen they don't have rich people in the family. And they can't get a loan from the bank because you know how the bank do us dirty. So to have places that we create, that would be like credit unions, banks to some degree, those financial tech centers I talked about, like Greenwood and Mokafi, right? Yes, we need to start doing that. So that's an excellent point, Queen. Robert Smith, Harriet Tubman said she could have freed more. Oh, Lord have mercy. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. She could have freed many more slaves if only they had known they were slaves. In my opinion, a significant factor in the lack of blacks' financial gains is due to designer slavery. And if by that my good brother Robert Smith means our seeming addiction to white people's goods, then yeah, that's right and exact. I mean, I think to some degree we all kind of have participated that at some point in our lives. The sneakers, the shoes, the jackets, the bags, whatever it is. And again, part of that is a function of being an internal colony where a lot of the things you need are offered by your enemy. And the other part of that is they spend billions and trillions of dollars to make us think that we ain't gonna be able to breathe, urinate, or or live another day without their product. Commercials are there for a reason. They are propaganda. Probably the best form of propaganda to teach you need their soda, their whatever it is. So yes, Brother Robert Smith is absolutely right and exact on that. And I think a way to combat that is to start listing and telling people about our institutions and enterprises that provide quality service. Now, the flip side of that, of course, is that when we're sending all these black people to these black-owned restaurants and bowling alleys and movie theaters and all this, that those proprietors are providing excellent service. That people not going there and getting the stank attitude from the person that's servicing them, right? Which you sometimes hear. So yes, there's a responsibility for the larger community to support black enterprises, and there's a responsibility for the black enterprises to render excellent service with a pleasant attitude. Very important. Yes, many of our people feel they need this or that item because it has a person they want it. Yes, you're absolutely right, my brother. You are absolutely right. You ain't said one thing wrong yet. Yes. And ultimately, remember, as the Queen says here, I think she's echoing what I've been saying this whole night. At the end of the day, we will be charged with creating the things we need. Because that is the nature of Pan-Africans and nationalists, that we build self-reliance, right? Self-sufficiency. And ultimately, self-determination, that we build the things we need because we understand that most of the things we really need and want will not come from those who despise our very presence. They just won't. So with that said, I want to thank all of y'all for coming out. I appreciate your time. I hope I haven't taken too much of it. I'm going to end this show. And I'll thank you all for coming out. Please remember, if you want to get some empowerment products, you look at the ticker on the bottom. I have maybe about 9, 10 books, 8, 9 books that I'm selling, some of which are traditional books I've written, some of which are ebooks. I really want to talk about this Gen Z It's Time to Glow Up series we got going on. It's 5 books written specifically for Gen Z family. Lord have mercy. And and I'm sure those of us who are middle-aged and older look upon them the way our parents' generation and grandparents' generation looked upon us when we were younger. You know, oh, they don't know this, they don't do this, whatever. Every generation has a little bit of that. But, and some of that is socially designed and conditioned. But I want to say this, the things that we see in young people, older people, that we find unpleasant, displeasing, dysfunctional, guess what? Guess who is charged with addressing it? Us. So this 5-part book series, they're ebooks, they're not traditional books. You can read through them really quick, and it's made that way specifically for a generation that don't read big books. They just don't read books like that, right? Cover to cover. They ain't going to get on no 350-page book and read it from cover to cover, most of them, right? But if you get a 14-page book with a few pictures, big font, and in their language, they might. So that's what this is. On the bottom, you see the website. Go check that out. And remember, they're all digital. So all those books are ebooks. They're not traditional books. And they're very affordable. I got one there for $2.50. Some are $5, some are $10, but very affordable stuff. Support your brother, support the nation. And this is my way of taking my gifts and bringing it to the community through education and also through coaching. With that said, family, thank you so much. Peace and Black Power with Kusu. Let's talk about these 10 institutions. Let's big them up. Let's create a culture where people are saying we need hospitals and cultural centers and laboratories and all these other things. Thank you so much, family. I'll see you next time. Peace and Black Power. Don't forget to subscribe.